tuning in this Wednesday night for the Wednesday Night Hump here on the Upstairs to the Right Music channel. I want to say first, like I always do, thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it with me. I know the value of time, and spending a little bit of yours with me is really greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. Um, Before we get started today, I think we got an interesting topic tonight. Certainly, it's one that worth sticking around for, I think. There's going to be some things I'm going to show you tonight that you don't see on even on YouTube that much, especially under one roof. So stay tuned for that. Let me see how I'm doing over here. Mr. Watson in the house, how you doing? Welcome. Let me make myself comfortable here, guys. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting week. First, while we wait for more people to show up in the chat and I warm up my mouth, let me talk about some things that have happened here at Upstairs to the Right Music Studio. This week, last week I told you that I was getting this reverb in from Behringer, the DR600, because I'm working out a reverb slot on my pedal board. And it came, and as you can see, it's stamped B stock. Yeah, I bought a B stock one because save a few bucks on it. Heck, it's still a cheap pedal nevertheless. And I also ordered the pedal that this one is supposed to be based on, which is the Boss RV5. That'll be coming in a few weeks. The next guitar shipment from Japan. But this one, as you can see, I got next door in Germany from Thomann, and I gave it a little bit. I had a few minutes. My dog had to have surgery today, so I was attending to her when she got home. But I did have a few minutes to get in and try it out. It needs its own separate 9-volt power source. I do have one here somewhere. But just because I didn't feel like digging through a bunch of boxes, I put in a 9 battery, which is also something that you can do, and I ran it. And I have to say that for what I need, a slight room sometimes on some of my guitar recordings. I like to have it in the recording as opposed to putting it on later. I like to print it with the reverb. Just a little bit, room reverb and spring reverb. And so I use the most. Ben Allmark in the house, how you doing? I'm doing fine. Feeling her, I'm feeling. At least I'm still feeling. So that's always an upside and improvement. It does color your tone. To the darker side, I would say, or it sucks a little bit of the vibrancy out, just a little hair. And that's because I'm using the headphone out on the moor. And I can, in really good headphone, can really hear those little nuances. But that can be overcome by, it does have a tone knob on it, so you can dial that out. Not a biggie. I don't think it's true bypass. Even with off, I feel as though it's still, in the chain. So there is that. But all in all, for a basic reverb for 40 euros, I use a very slight room. I don't even use a very heavy room. It's a very, 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 very little bit of room I put on it. I like that sound, and it does that job. So I can't say that the Behringer DR600 is a bad pedal for the money. As a matter of fact, for the money, I actually like the sound of the room on this pedal better than I did on the TC Electronics Mini. And I just have to say that I had. For the money, if you're pressed and you want to put together a decent board, and you're trying to save money, this would be a go. I could just pretty much will say that this would be a buy. I could suggest this as being a buy. It does have a little bit of issues, but the only issue, it does need its own separate 9-volt power, but most folks have those laying around. The other thing, like I said, not being true bypass, there's a little bit of issue there, but not a major one. So I'm looking forward for the Boss RV5 that this pedal is supposedly based on to come through, so I can do a head-to-head against the two of those and see how they sound. I think the Boss is obviously going to sound better. I think it is true bypass. Uh, uh, but is it $100? Yeah, about $100 worth, or 100 euros worth the difference. We'll have to see. But for right now, as a placeholder, this will do just fine. Just fine, as a matter of fact. I will do some recording with it. As you know, I wanted to have a reverb because I'm trying to recreate in my pedal board a Fender amp. Primarily like a blackface, something like that, 65, something like that. But 1x12. But I got this pedal, plugged it in, loved the way it sounded. It put that last little, touch on that pedal board to where it's good to go for recording now. For the bonus tracks that I want to record, new material for the third Asanoki album I'm putting together. And getting that project going, the record parts is going to be great now. I know the sound is going to be fantastic, and I get the tone in my head translated to tape, or to, in this case, my DAW. Wish I was going to tape like I used to. But it kind of made the Fender Champion redundant. I have a Fender Champion. I put in a nice vintage, well, not vintage, but a vintage voiced old Jensen speaker in it, Italian made. And it is a full amp, However, I maintain that with that pedal board, it's kind of redundant. And so, believe it or not, kids, I'm actually going to be getting rid of the Fender Champion 40 that I have. No, I won't be letting go of the vintage Jensen amp speaker. I'll be putting the old speaker back in. But that'll take 5 minutes. But I am getting rid of that, and I'm replacing it with an orange one, either a 1x8, or because I want a 1x8. I think record here with a 1x8, and I like some of the Orange Crush amps. So I'm looking at buying one of the Orange Crush amps and replacing that, because again, like I said, it's a little bit redundant for me to have that pedal board that's Fender voiced, Fender amp voice, and a lot of choices of Fender amps, of course, with them newer radar at the end in terms of the cabinets and the power amps. The orange thing is in there too, but I always want to have a separate 1x8 for recording. I think if you can find one and get one that sounds decent, then that's something that I'd like as well. So that's my plan with that. Hey, the guitar professionals, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the show, a new sub. Hey, man, I want to say thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, guy, and listening to me rant about it. I do it very well, though. But tonight I got a little bit more than a rant. So anyway, that's my plans. So the board is let's say it's there. We'll see. The Boss, will probably end up keeping the Boss on it. Let's be honest. But I wanted to give, for the price, I wanted to give this DR600 a chance. The Fender Champ is out, and I'm going to bring that in on a deal that I'm setting up. Always, like I said, something goes out, something new comes in that will be covered by the trade, and certainly Orange Crush amp, especially the Orange 20. That one was certainly be covered by a trade. So that would be interesting when that comes in. But that is kind of my mindset. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I've gotten back into my recording mode. So I'm looking at, what am I recording with? Again, how to do it as economical as possible. And coming up with some interesting ideas. Stay tuned and we'll see how that sounds. I got a I didn't just get the DR600 here. I also got some pretty cool guitars that I want to talk about tonight with you guys tonight. A little bit of a preview. Every month I do an unboxing video on the regular content on my channel. And you can see me unboxing usually very nice vintage guitars from Japan. And I do a preview here on my Wednesday night hump if I can, or the Sunday show when I can, of those guitars for new subscribers, for old subscribers, for you guys to see before I put out that video of the unboxing. And talk a little bit more in depth about because sometimes they come in, they stick around for a while, and I do get a chance to review them and film them for my regular content. Sometimes they go very, very quickly. So getting a chance to talk about them in depth like this is really a treat and something that I think you guys are going to find very interesting. So grab your favorite beverage. I've got mine. Don't know what this is. It's organic orange soda. Nastiest stuff I've ever had, but it's supposed to be good for me. No sugar or agave sugar or something like that. But anyway, the orange crush I used to have as a kid, I'll tell you that. But that was nothing but sugar. That was like hummingbird juice. Carbonated hummingbird juice. Welcome, guys. I want to talk about 3 Strats tonight. I want to show you 3 Strats tonight. And I want to discuss them, and I want to get rid of some myths that surround them. You know, there's a lot of myths surrounding Japanese Strats, Korean Strats, Chinese Strats, and you know, that so much so that you have to really cut the fog on this one. This is one of those ones where a guy backstage one day was smoking a cigarette, and a guy came up to him and said, "Hey man, have you ever heard of those Tokais?" "Yeah man, I heard that, you know, the blah 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 blah." And then it became a Chinese from that point, and some of it went into print. And years later, that went onto internet, and myths prevail from that kind of stuff. And so let's start cutting through some of those myths. Let's do it tonight a little bit, if you're in there with me. Michael Watson says, "You will love the Orange Crush. I love..." Oh, you've got one, Michael. Oh, really? You got the 20 watt? Which one do you have? I'm looking at the 20 watt because it's a little itty bitty 1x8, like I said. And I think it'll work for my situation. So there's that. JF says, "Have I ever been to prison? You look kind of criminal." Do I look like a smooth criminal? Alex, hey, how you doing, Alex? Alex, you have a guitar on your way. I don't know if your dad told you, but that white Strat is on its way. So keep an eye out for that. I hope I packed it decently. I always have my second thoughts after I send it out, but it's pretty okay. So it should arrive in one piece. Fingers crossed. Scott Bogfoot, how you doing, sir? It's in the house. Black Star HTR Mark II is a great 1 watt 8-inch rock amp. Yeah, it's the orange vibe, man. I want that orange colored, amp. It's more for aesthetics too. I need to take the place of that Fender Champ that kind of fills in space for my filming, for my regular content. So aesthetically, I need something like that. A nice vintage table I'm going to set it up on, put some pedals underneath, because it's a little thing, but, make it look really nice. But also use it as well. Crush amps are fun though. Yep, I hope so. I'm going to find out. Thank you so much. I'm dying to play it. Yeah, Alex, you are very welcome, sir. And I really hope that you enjoy it. You keep it. Don't sell it. Keep it for years to come. It's a guitar that, eventually, you swap pickups on that when you feel you want to. If you feel you need to, you really don't. And it'll grow with you. It's a keeper for life. Printed box rounded bodies. Ben Allmark. I had the Orange Crust 35 watt a while ago and liked it so much that I plan on eventually buying another one. Cheap and sounds great. I'm looking at the 20 to 35. I'm looking at those two. The bots are here tonight. I want to welcome the bots. Thank you guys so much for showing up. You're always welcome as well. Okay. I want to show you guys Strat number one. So this, guys, is a 1980 Greco SE-500. And it even still has the stamp on the back. You know, I always love it when they still have that stamp on the back. First of all, you know, nobody can really counterfeit. Well, I guess they could, but it'd be pretty tough, especially on what they look like. You've seen enough of them. And the second thing is that, you know, it just confirms you know what you got. And if you remember, I had that 1977 SE-450. It had the big headstock. This has the small headstock. That one had the big 70s headstock on it that I restored and eventually a trade deal. And I kind of regret it a little bit. It's one of those ones that I was actually thinking about keeping for myself because, as you know, I'm looking for a vintage Strat, a Strat, 1980 will suffice for myself to keep. And in natural, I really like these Grecos, the Sin Ash bodies that these are made out of. I really, by the way, perfect, really one owner, one guy, one owner. This case over my shoulder right here, that's the case of this. It's got the vintage case, got the most beautiful interior I've ever seen on any guitar case. You'll see it in the regular content. I shot a little bit of B-roll on that. But yeah, all original, still original pickups, still everything, still just trucking after 40, what is that, 44 years, something like that, 1980. So yeah, 44 years. Yeah, been a minute, but looking good. Pot's a little scratchy on this guitar, but that's something that Fern will straighten out for me. As you know, I love that Greco Les Paul Black Beauty Custom from 1976 that I had. It was a guitar that I seriously considered keeping for myself. But the truth is, it's far too expensive a guitar for me just to have around for myself, to be honest with you. So I started looking around again for another Greco from the 70s, like that SE-450 I have, and I found this 500 from 1980 in perfect condition. Again, like I said, with, again, just like the 450, it's a nice case. But this one is even better, one owner for sure on this one. And I'm going to keep this one. So this is my guitar. I bought this actually for myself. This is not one of my trade guitars, or not trade guitars. This is not one of my for sale guitars. This is my personal Greco. I love this Strat. I love the neck on this. We'll talk about that a little bit. I love every aspect of it. I love the sound of these XL, these U pickups. I really like the sound of them. I always did. And I decided that this is going to be my keeper guitar. So you'll be seeing this a lot. This is the guitar that I'll be recording with, that I'll be doing demos and things with. Really happy that I was able to, you know, the 450 I had a little bit of damage here on the neck, wood damage. Somebody had just put some dings in it. I did some cosmetic work on that to smooth that out, a little bit of sanding and work on it, made it nice. But this one is perfect. This one, you know, there's no issues with it whatsoever, other than the pots that need a little bit of attention. So that is the story with guitar number one tonight. Mr. Rogers in the house, saying hello to everybody. Is that a natural wood finish or no? This is Japanese Sin Ash. You know, I'm looking at this, guys. I'm trying to figure out how many, maybe three pieces, maybe two-piece Japanese Sin Ash with a natural finish on it. No, I'm sorry, a natural with a poly finish on it. That's poly. the poly that they put on back in the day was very, very, very thin. It's not that thick, you know, stuff they put on stuff these days. It's a very little difference. When you get into the 800 of this model, the SE-800, that is shot in nitro. And from what I understand, I haven't had one yet, but I will come through. There's very little difference between the poly finish and the nitro finish on this. Neck feels great. This is a D neck with a lot of shoulder. So it's very reminiscent of the Squier JV guitars. That's why I gravitated strongly towards this guitar, this particular Greco, because of this big neck. I've got some pretty big mids, and I don't like tiny necks too much. I tolerate them, but for a regular player, I really, and that was one of the reasons I like the Custom as well. That Black Beauty Custom had a big fat 58 neck on it, but this has a big chunky D with shoulders, and so for me, a comfortable. Maybe for some people, it's too big. Catching up. I've caught up to everybody, I think, in the chat. The bots are having their bot time. So that's our number one. So a 1980 SEC sound, Spacy Sound. Don't confuse these, by the way, just as a note, there is a Spacy Sound and there's the Spacy Sounds, which is a later produced model of cheaper quality, not as nice as these. So be aware of that. Spacy Sound is what you're looking for with these. So that's my keeper guitar, guys. Pleased with that. Now, I was upset a little bit, like I said, about losing out on that 450, but I think I got a better one in natural. So, you know, great. From 1980, from March. The 450 was also made in March of 77. All right, guitar number two. This is my first Tokai Strat. This is, gentlemen and lady, 1980. So both of them are 1980s tonight. This is a 1980, the infamous ST50, the Springy Sound, the Springy Sound. So you can see that on that Springy Sound, brazen picking. Again, all original on this one, completely original, nothing changed on this whatsoever. This guitar is renowned as being the closest to its Fender counterpart that was produced in Japan at that time. This is the guitar that it is said that Fender got their hands on it and checked it out, you know, and flew from their Corona Fullerton factory to, I always can't remember which was the first, the Fullerton or the Corona factory, Fullerton factory, and went to Japan and made a deal with these guys that were producing these to start producing the Fender Japan guitars, the Squiers, and the Fender branded guitars. This is a C neck, so this is a check. You know, I'll you know, a C neck is something also that's okay with me, but it's not my favorite. So not as chunky, and doesn't have the shoulders either. Greco has. Again, both of these guitars produced in 1980. Both of them have the same pickups in them. However, here's the thing. I didn't mention this. Well, actually, I can use this as the example. All of these Greco and Tokai guitars came with these pickups, which are U branded pickups, XLs. However, they're branded XLs, but it turns out historically there were two different versions of the XL. The early version prior to 1979, 1980, that guitar lovers swear by and say they're fantastic. And then there's the version 2, we'll call it, XLs that came out after that. That are, you know, hit or miss. This guitar has the XL version 2s in it. I'm sorry. The XL version 1. Sorry, it gets confusing. The XL version 1's in it. That's because, and you would think in 1980, then it should have the XL2s in it, but there's no stamp on the neck plate there. Even with the Greco over there sitting over here, it has the stamp on the neck plate. In the case of this guitar, this stamp is stamped on the pocket of the neck, and on the at the head of the neck right here, and in the pocket the identifier of what model is. So it reads ST50. The pickups read XLU branded pickups. However, I mention all these things because also in 1980, they began stamping the serial number here on the plate. But this one is a 1980. If you look at the heel and you see the stamp, it reads 1980. However, it doesn't have the stamp on the outside, it has that on the inside. So this is kind of a transitional example of the ST50. It has the old XL pickups in it, doesn't have the stamp on the back, stamps inside here. But kind of the best of both worlds, because again, these are just really Fender competitors without any doubt. A few modifications, especially in the hardware, but still, in all, a fantastic guitar. That again is a little bit better because it's a transitional guitar. So I was very happy to find one of these, because I know that it has older XL pickups, which again, this Greco over here, again from 1980, this one actually has the version 2 in it, I believe. These are the version 2 XLs. I like the sound. I know people say the version 1s are the top cat's meow, but I actually like the sound of the version 2s in here better than over here, the version 1s on this Tokai. I have to say I had a set of the version 1s on that 77 SE-450. They weren't as meaty as this, but they were beautiful pickups, great sounding Strat pickups. But these are pretty meaty. These are overwound from the way that they sound. This would be the difference between the version 1 and the version 2 is that the version 2s are overwound. I actually like the sound of this better. So there's that. And the third guitar that I want to talk about, but I want to talk about the mythology behind these guitars, the Japanese ones versus something like this. This is a 2002, 2003 Squier SE-100. It has the CY stamp on the neck. The neck and the body are not, the neck is not original to the body. I had to re-neck it, but I found a neck from the same factory from the same time period. So it's essentially restored. This guitar is one of the guitars that, when they first came out, kind of got a dog reputation from prior Japanese Squier owners. It said that they just don't stand up to the prior produced Japanese Squiers. And I find that very interesting because, especially in the case of this Tokai Springy Sound, this is a precursor to those JV Squiers. The body, let's see, get both of these in frame. The bodies, if I can kind of do that a little bit, are extremely similar. I mean, they're point for point, the full bodies, same measurements. I actually like the color on the Chinese one better than the burst over here on the Tokai. I think that's an interesting burst on there. You know, it's still pretty, but I like a darker burst on these guitars. I like burst guitars. as you guys know, but I'm prone to like the burst a little bit more. But these Chinese guitars came out, Squiers came out, of course, when they moved, jumped ship from Japan and went over to China. Produced by a Taiwanese company, that's the CY, I'll let you know, these were produced by a Taiwanese company. Um, and they got a bad rep. I think one of the reasons they got a bad rep is that this guitar comes with ceramic pickups. These are ceramic pickups in this guitar, as opposed to the Tokai and the Greco here next to me, and the subsequent JVs. Most of those all had Alnico 5 pickups on them. Alnico 5 pickups on them. So you would think to yourself, again, it's a situation where the made in Mexico fenders got dogged when they first came out, because they had ceramic pickups in them when they first came out. And I think it was a similar kind of issue with these Strats from China. Because to be honest with you, by the way, just a gorgeous, for a 21-year-old guitar, it's holding up well as well. It's looking very nice. Nice looking Squier. Of these three, and I will be doing a sound test so that you guys can hear on my regular content of these three guitars. I'll be filming that tomorrow, actually. I like the sound of these ceramic pickups almost as much as I like the sound of the XLs in the Greco. I like the sound of the Tokai pickups the least. Now, I haven't exactly, I've got this one dialed in. This is, a Strat that's not going anywhere either. but the problem with this one is the neck that I put on it is a small C neck. It's just too small. I'm just not comfortable with this size of the three necks. This one is the smallest. I believe it measures at 41.5 here at the nut, something like that. It gets a little chunky as it gets down here towards the 12th fret, but it's just a little bit too thin of a neck for me. Again, of the three, this is the thinnest neck. However, the pickups in this sound superior to my ears than the Tokai over here. Oh, well, that's a funny thing, Mike, because the Tokai has Anarcho 5 pickups in it, XLs, that are supposed to be the bee's knees. You mean to tell me that you like the sound of the ceramic pickups from China more? Yes, I do. In this case, with this guitar and these pickups, again, original. These are the original pickups to this guitar, so these are dated the same as the guitar. There's a clarity that you get with ceramic pickups that you don't get with analytical pickup helps. That makes this guitar worth keeping around. Just clarity. Again, I don't like fighting the neck. I don't have to fight the neck on the Greco, so that's probably going to be my regular player, but this one has its merits as well. The pickups, ceramic pickups in this, I think, are fantastic. I think the bad rep that these guitars got is not based on, and then they'll say, well, the build on them is crappy, this, that, and the other. Frankly speaking, the metal, the hardware is cheaper, of course, on the Chinese Squier, but not by a significant amount over the Japanese Tokai. Of course, in my opinion, the Greco has the better hardware on it, but that's just my opinion. However, not a marketable difference between the three in terms of hardware. And in terms of pickups, I just gave my opinion. Electronics, yeah, about the same there as well on all three. Preference of neck, again, I told you my preference, yours might be different. Tuning pegs, all original, all three of these. I think they're fine. They're comparable. The Squiers are a little bit more modern, where you have the tulips on the Tokai and the Greco. I like those. I like the way they feel. Put your thumb on it and you're turning it. It's more comfortable than the more modern ones on the Squier, but again, comparable there. Again, guys, and price-wise, this Chinese Squier is a lot less than the Tokai and the Greco here. In terms of price, a lot less, about a quarter of the price, I'd say. You know, maybe a third on a good day, but a quarter of the price for sure. So something to think about that I wanted to share with you. I love the yellow pickup covers on the white pickguards opposite the bright white. Two beauties, Mike, very nice. Thank you very much, Ben. Yeah, you know, if you look in the catalog, they came like that. That didn't happen over time. They actually shipped them out with this style, and I'm sure they've darkened over time. The pickguard isn't as clean as it looks. I'm going to have to do my buffing trick that I showed you, how to get those fine scratches out and make it look new. You can't really see them, but that pickguard has some really, really fine scratches. I was really downstroking here, but I'm going to clean that up. Possibly, maybe not, I don't know, to make it look a little bit better for sale. This one is for sale. I'm not keeping this guitar, so this will be moving on here shortly. Not before I get a chance to show it off and demo. And of all of these ones, this one has the most Fender looking, I guess the sheen and the feeling of this is the most Fender-like neck. If you guys understand, you know, standard neck, American standard neck. It just has, it feels like that, looks like it. But again, I said neck preferences, I like the Greco, so there is that. Fender in the 70s, bad QC opened the market for the competitors in Japan to make inroads in the United States market. That is right, Mike. That is correct. And by the way, hello, greetings. Hello, how you doing? Welcome. Glad you're here. Yeah, that is quite true. Again, was this Tokai, the Springy Sound that people heard about over in the States at Fender and said, hey, let's take a look at that because they're whipping our ass. Interestingly enough, this one is based on a 57 Strat. One of the things about these ST50s is that it's supposed to be one of the best recreations outside of Fender of a 1957 Strat. So of course that would get, and this one is almost perfect. There's one ding right there. But I like, you know, dings on Strats and a little bit of a weird discoloration here. I think that's from where somebody was putting their pick, keeping their pick guard there, that discoloration, because I do that. So exactly in that spot. But other than that, everything's in great condition on this. Yeah, you know, just one of those things that that got hip to and said, hey, you know, let's check them out, and you know, the rest is history on that. So Tokai's rise in the 1970s and the 1980s, making it almost like a Fender rival to pick up from that thought of Mike's. The Springy Sound's reputation for being a near-perfect replica of a vintage Fender Strat is one of the things that, word-of-mouth things, in this case positive, had got the ball rolling on Fender wanting to have a deal in Japan. It's got a vintage-style tremolo and pickups, and the attention to detail in terms of recreating a 57 Strat is pretty impressive. The Greco, on the other hand, is based on a 65 Strat. That would make it pre-CBS, just on the cutoff line, I think. So it's based on a 65 small headstock. But again, you know, if you look at them, subtle differences, but not anything really significant. Well, that's on all three. Body-wise, bodies look all the same, especially if you look at the Squier and the Tokai. The difference is, and where you can figure out what you got if you're not clear, is on your pick guard, the number of screws. This is 11 screw guard as opposed to the Tokai and the Greco that have maybe say this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, 9 hole on these. So that's where you can tell the difference there as well. Just again, like you would find on Fenders. So a little bit of a difference. And that's one of the things too, I think, that made people kind of, poo-poo Squiers, because little things like that the aficionados would notice. They'd pick that out. Hey, wait a minute, that's not a 9-hole screw pickguard, that's an 11-hole screw pick. Oh, by the way, that's a 5-position switch on that. It's not a 3-position switch. Both the Greco and the Tokai, those are 3-position switches. The Squier has a 5-position switch. Again, some people would consider that, and some people take these 3-position switches and put in a 5. They consider that to be an improvement. So really there again, nothing really wrong per se with the Squier, is there? Versus the far more expensive Tokai and Greco, and I'm not even comparing it against, as you know, the Fender. So yeah, there is a message here, a subliminal message underneath all of this. I think you guys are starting to figure it out. That criticism for quality control that early 2000 Chinese Squiers got, I think that some of the guitars that those cats were complaining about, if you were to fast forward them in time, which we can kind of do with this Squier right here, if we could, fast forward in time and hold it, we would say, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with that guitar. Yeah, it's, it's not a traditional 3-position switch, it's a 5-position switch. Yeah, the pickguard's a little different, the neck's a little different, but essentially, other than that, doesn't affect the tone of the playability. The pickups on this thing are fantastic. But again, these are the things, guys. These are the reasons. Because if you go from something like this to that, let's pretend this is a JV, close enough, Squier, and then you go to the Chinese one, yeah, you're going to really notice that difference just by picking it up. The necks on these are superior, to be honest with you. Even though the neck wood material slab of rosewood on the Squier is great too. You try getting slab rosewood on a Squier these days. Good friggin' luck. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. So there's that. Now, the price point of the Squier, if money was the option and I had these 3 sitting in front of me and I played all 3 of them and didn't care, again, looking past the headstock, the Tokai Greco Squier, which some people out there in the Fender clubs will overlook mostly. But so if you can overlook that and just go the playability, the look, the fit, the finish, things like that, I think that you would find that the Squier has a great sound at a much more affordable price point, even over the Tokai and the Greco. The materials and the electronics used are equitable or a little less than the Japanese-made Tokai, for example, using it as an equivalent to a JV Squier from Japan. And you can feel that. And again, when I say you hold guitar, quality ones have a certain gravitas to them. You're holding a quality instrument. When you hold this Tokai, you're holding, wow, that neck is something, it looks like something, it feels like something, it plays like butter. No issues with electronics. I plugged it in and it was good to go, even set up pretty nice. But when you hold that and then you hold this early 2000 Squier, there is a little drop there in terms of that gravitas, but that doesn't take anything away from this feeling like and sounding like a pretty solid instrument all of its own. So again, I'm trying to get you guys tonight to see these, experience these, at least with your eyes, and go through these and show you that the mythos regarding these are, in some cases, really comes apart from snobbery, comes from snobbery. That's the genesis of a lot of this. Because, again, walking into a shop And having the Greco will cost you about 400 euro. The Tokai will cost you about 500 euro. I'm giving you, I'm giving you wholesale prices. Tokai costs you about $500, and the Squier from that time period to maybe 200, we'll say. So 300, it's anywhere between a 200 to 300 euro difference in these guitars in terms of wholesale price. Well, maybe not so wholesale on that Squier stuff. We'll just say 200. If you're making that kind of decision in terms of purchasing them, I think after you play them, if you can, the deal breaker with me on the Squier Strat is just the neck, but I can make it work. The pickups I think sound great. The feels great. It's not too heavy, not too light. It's a good weight, and you'd be saving some significant money there. So putting these three head to head like I have, that's the kind of conclusion that I've come to, is that I am happy to own both. I own now both this Greco Spacy Sound and this Squier that I restored. And they're two great Strats to own, but there's good value in that Squier. There's good, and so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And I would say that because I have the Telecaster, the vintage vibe, more recent Squiers, that those are well made too, and they don't fetch. They almost fetch the price of some of these older Grecos, almost wholesale, but you'd be doing all right with that as well if you didn't want to buy an older guitar. Again, Chinese Squiers aren't bad. They're not bad. They never really were. I think a lot of the criticism comes from snobbery. And having examples of those eras of guitar playing them, I can tell you that that's the conclusion that I've come to. The Greco and the Tokai, as I said, are made from sin ash. And the Squier is made from agathis, and so the body. So sin ash versus agathis. I again am not a proponent of tone wood. I'm just not. I will say that the Squier, again, I play it acoustically. It resonates, It has a nice to it. The Greco has a very nice ring width and very long sustain on that. The Tokai, I know I keep kind of dogging this one a little bit, but this one is a little out of tune. But this one has the dullest ring to it played acoustically. So you got the Greco first, the Squier second, and Tokai third. Again, the Squier keeps placing either, in the number 2 position. So pickups, I've already discussed that. Hardware durability, well, again, you got 40 years, you got 20 years here. All the hardware seems to be functioning just fine. I wouldn't change any of the hardware or any of this stuff, to be frank with you. So they all score top as far as that's concerned. I think, again, once you get out of the 2000s and get into later, the last 20 years or so, the materials just got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. I've demonstrated that before. I've held tremolo blocks from Squiers from two different 20 years apart from each other, and the quality wasn't there with the more modern ones. Even with the older ones that, again, people were calling cheap crap that they would love to have now. The ironies of it, guys. The ironies of it. Ox Ripper is one of the best Japanese Strat copies to come out of the 70s. I agree. They just made great ones all around. Mike says that cork-sniffing snob appeal is not a Squier or Epiphone thing. The high-end Japan-made stuff is moving up quite a bit in the retail market here in Southern California. Interesting. A lot of the hate of Chinese Squier came from them often being sold alongside very cheaply made amps that didn't amplify the full resonance of the guitar. Thank you, whatever, man, and welcome to the chat. Thank you for chiming in and saying that. Yeah, dude, more, you know, your amp, your output is the most important thing. That's why, I'm getting the Champion 40 is getting replaced with Orange, but I've never for years let go of that Laney with that vintage greenback in it. That's my tester. That's my proof. If I plug a guitar in that and strum a few chords, then I know, after a decent setup, what I got. And so they were playing them through crappy amps. And, so that was another aspect. I agree, whatever, man, on that. A cheaply made guitar into a well-made amp is exponentially better than a well-made guitar into a bad amp. I've said that here myself, sir, many a time, and I agree with that. I agree with that, whatever. Man, 100%. And I think that, again, there was a lot of things aside from the obvious headstock snobbery going on with these Chinese-made Squiers, even versus their Japanese counterparts. Any cat who had to have a gigging guitar would be certainly happy with the Tokai or the Greco, and they would make do with the Squier Strat. Mike Repperford, he plays Squier Strats. So he made it live in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So he made do with them. So again, they're in that ranking. They all pretty much well placed. Now, adjusting for inflation, how do you guys feel that the Greco and the Tokai compare to that 2003 Squier cost after going through all that? Feel free to discuss. Squier's low cost and decent quality provided many players with a gateway into playing at the end of the day. My first guitar was a Japanese Squier. It's been it's been 40 years around, so it's the fog of time. But I know it was a Squier, and I know it was a Japanese-made one. And at the time, it was a Japanese bullet, Squier bullet. And at the time, they were regarded really well. Well, you take that same Japanese bullet now and look it up on Reverb, and they're asking big money for it. Big money. And let it go. For that reason alone. They gave a lot of gateway into playing, and that's the truth of the matter. So they, in of themselves, deserve a place of respect just for that alone. Do I think in another 20 years, when this Squier comes up being vintage, will it be considered to be a vintage guitar and be held even in the same part of this Tokai or this Greco? I don't know. Time will tell for sure. Will I be around that? Maybe. But I'd be willing to bet. I would be willing to bet that there would be a lot of cats who would say that, they have a good value to them. They're not. So there would definitely be a club of guys who would be willing to pay for good examples of it. I do believe that. Will they be future vintage in the budget category? Yeah, like I said, there may be a small group of people who are interested in them who will make that happen. It's a possibility. Whatever, man. Great combos on this channel. Thank you, sir. Cheers to you. I appreciate that. A good setup also can be understated. Yep, a lot of those Squiers are usually in the hands of people who don't really know. You're in the shop. You're in the Guitar Center. It's 1983 or 84, like I was. and Guitar Center on Sunset. And you have to ask yourself, good staff, knowledgeable people, but really, did they take the time to set up a bullet? Probably not. Probably not. And did I know at that time to take it to a luthier, because I didn't know how to do it, to have it set up properly? No, no. So I happened to get a decent one that didn't require but a simple setup, basic setup that was part of the factory, and whatever I did, which was nothing, and I was okay. But imagine you get one that needs a little bit of a TLC, then you start getting a bad reputation. So I think you're right, whatever, man. That might be a problem as well. Mike says, Chris Buck plays a Japan-made Squier Strat. Yeah, he does he not? He really does. And again, the JV Strats that immediately followed 3 years later after this one was made is very similar to the guitar that Chris Buck plays. As a matter of fact, I think it's extremely similar. Extremely similar. So yeah, this would be something that he would definitely gravitate towards. And they're just cool. I mean, when you hold that, you're like, okay, that's a Strat. It feels, like a Strat. Donato, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. So, I like this one. This is my guitar now. I'm keeping this. This is my Strat. This 1980 SE-500. And this is one of the finest feeling guitars. I love this neck. I really do. I just love it. It's just a good feeling neck. And you can really play this all the way up and comfortably. Not heavy. A nice one. Not heavy. Of the three, the Squier is the heaviest. I think it's because it's made of agathis. That's a very heavy wood. But I'm very happy. I'm happy to have the Squier as well. That one's not going anywhere. Since it's been re-necked, that kind of, I don't sell, something like that I wouldn't sell anyway. Not that I would get much for re-neck like that. It's really just for me. Plus it's wired a little bit different. The second tone control actually controls the bass pickup. So I've got it wired so that this tone control actually doesn't affect the middle pickup. It actually affects the rear pickup, the bridge pickup. And it gives you tone control, tone over the bridge pickup, and that's pretty cool. That's one of the things I like about the way that I wired the Squier. It's not wired like this Greco. So that gives me a little bit of flexibility between these two guitars as well, because they're wired a little bit differently. This one, so the pots on it are a little scratchy, and I'm going to keep it. If the pots are old and they're no good, usually you can't use CTS pots. There's many pots in these. You have to use alpha pots, but I will put in a new set of alpha pots. I think that this comes with a set of 500Ks. I'm going to switch it to 250K because I think that these XL pickups, because I did it with the other Strat, the 450, I put in 250s as opposed to 500s and Ks, and it sounded better to me. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one since it's my personal Strat now. So yeah, really happy about that. Really super happy about it. Stone Bass Player 6, how you doing, sir? Welcome, chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. I found a 1981 Washburn DB bass at a pawn shop, and after buying, setting it up, and playing it, it became one of my favorite basses to play. You find those treasures. You find them, and you don't expect. It's literally like finding treasure at the end of a rainbow, because you weren't really expecting it. But boy, when you get it, you got it for a great price, and with a little bit of work on your own, you turned it into an excellent instrument. So right on to that, that's the kind of stories I like to hear. And that's kind of the point of this, guys, is that, wholesale, there's not a lot of difference between the price of these guitars. On the retail market, there's a little bit of difference on the wholesale. There's a lot of difference in the price on the retail side for these three guitars, with the Squier being way down. Again, like I said at the beginning, about a quarter of the price of these retail. But not kick the Squier out of bed. Comparing it to these three, I would not, because it is really an excellent made guitar. Just, you know, and the gripes that were made against it were unfair. With a decent set, getting your pickup height set really well, and all the other things, you're really set with this. You're really set with this. So that is my point tonight, is that you might want to invest in that. You might want to invest into some of these Squiers. I think that you're getting great value for the money. If you can find them, in pawn shops. That's usually where they're at. And you can suss it out and see that it's in decent enough condition where a minimum amount of work will get it into a great player, then do it. Highly unlikely you're going to find Tokais or Grecos, but you may. But don't feel as though you have to have those above a Squier, because I'm telling you that with a Squier from early 2000s, you're doing okay. You're in the ball. The new ones, the classic vibe ones, those are nice as well. Squiers are okay guitars at the end of the day. The Chinese ones are okay is the point of this. They're not, you know, the boogeyman like everybody makes them out to be at the guitar world. They're actually decent players. And a lot of the negativity that came about back in the day over them, I went through a lot of reasons just now. And some of you guys brought up good ones as well, but you could that they were all, they're just unbased opinions, you know, and so certainly biased. So there's that to think about, guys. You know, when you're out there guitar shopping, again, I'm always encouraging you to look used. But maybe take a second look at some of those older Squiers, especially, again, like the CY. You want to get that CY on the back of the headstock. That's the Taiwanese company made ones. Those have a great reputation. Over time, they prove themselves to be actually decent, and people actually desire these. It's a desire. This Squier, I play it out. I had to swap a re-neck, but it's still a desirable Squier because of the body. It's a full-size body, and it's got a great neck on it. The materials on it you can't find today. Real rosewood slabbed and reclaimed maple, one piece. So there's that. Greco super quality. I have a Speedway 700 Albert copy from 1979. Yeah, great bass. My best, I'm sorry, guitar. My best, wait a minute, Albert copy. I believe it was a bass. Maybe the bass of the guitar Albert. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the 700, but I am familiar with the Albert. From 1979, my best 70s guitar by a mile. Anyway, they're great. They're Rickenbacker copies I'm going to have in next month. I bought coming up here, a Greco Rickenbacker copy. You guys will be seeing that. A little bit different, something different here for the channel. I haven't had a Rickenbacker in it, but it's a 70s Rickenbacker copy, 79. That'll be coming in next month as well. So yeah, they made some great copies of guitars. I agree. Something worth looking into, guys. Something worth experiencing. Again, I am very happy to be able to share all three of these with you so that you can experience them this way and get a true opinion of these guitars and see that a lot of that stuff regarding the Chinese Squiers versus the Japanese ones is hokum. I've got two examples of both of them right here in front of me from that time period, and I can tell you the Chinese is fine. It's fine. Is it the quality of the Greco or the Tokai? No, it's a step down, but it's not a bad step. It's not a complete falling on, down the steps and breaking your neck kind of. Just a slight step down. But the quality is still there, and here it is 20 plus years later, and it's still playing. And that the test of time is always going to be the true judge of that. Time will tell, as Prince used to say. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight and letting me share these with you. There will be an unboxing video coming up here tomorrow. And then after that, do a sound test. I'm going to play all three of these guitars in a regular content video. And we're going to go ABC blind test, and you're going to tell me which was which. Which one is this? Which is the Squier? Which is the Tokai? And which one is the Greco? And I'm looking forward to letting you guys see that. Zane, to you, Alex. You guys take care. I want to thank you so much for sticking around for the entire show tonight. If you have not subscribed yet to this channel and you like kind of content, you like to see cool guitars, vintage stuff like this, got a lot of it coming up here. Hit the subscribe button. Join the community here. It's a great community, as you can see, full of the finest bots that somebody over in India who's on my case can buy. I told you guys that story. But really a great community of great guys here, bots aside. And I'd like to have you join in the conversation until Sunday for Sunday Mics. Until then, you guys take care, and I will see you. Bye-bye.